What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here with another Week 7 college football preview, and we have a huge top 25 matchup going down in Austin, Texas this weekend. We got the number 12 ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys coming in to take on the number 25 Texas Longhorns. The Longhorns are actually the 5.5 point favorite in this matchup in the Fox big noon kickoff game, 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Fox, man. And this game probably plays one of the biggest roles in deciding who takes that, possibly second one of those two spots in Dallas for the Big 12 championship. Moving forward, it can place both of these teams in really, really nice position to get one of those two spots. Texas needs a big win in this one after their very tough loss to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State is looking to continue their undefeated run right now. So for me, this game couldn't mean any more to either one of these teams. And so that's the biggest storyline. But for each team, the Longhorns come in at 4-2. Many are wondering what could have been last weekend if they would have finished off the Sooners like many thought they probably would have. Steve Sarkisian's offense has been clicking after a quarterback change, and it could be, and the Big 12 could be absolutely interesting if the Longhorns can pull off a huge top 12 win over the Cowboys this weekend in Austin, Texas. And on top of that, Oklahoma State finds themselves at 5-0. Many people did not see this team being at this position. They're looking for their third straight top 25 win of the season, and they're looking to make a top 10 run and a very, very strong run in a Big 12 title, which they have not had since 2011. Now, the Longhorns lead this series 26-9, and they've won the last two matchups, but the Cowboys have won four of the last six matchups against the Longhorns. So this rivalry has gone both ways in recent years, but the Longhorns historically have dominated. But let's get into the keys of the game, man. And we'll start with Oklahoma State. The Cowboys have to keep a balanced attack on offense. That's exactly how they've succeeded over the first 5 weeks of the season. Spencer Sanders is at his best when the run game is clicking and vice versa. But the number one thing to do this weekend is establish the running game first against this Longhorns defense, giving up over 200 yards per carry and over 5 yards per carry for the season, and then allow Sanders to build off of that and have some high percentage throws. That way he can kind of ease into the game in a very, very most likely hostile road environment down there in Austin. Now, the Cowboys, have struggled to run the ball early, to say the least, and it's been mostly due to injuries, turnover at the running back spot. You look at, what they lost with Chuba Hubbard. He's been, after Christian McCaffrey's injury, he's been balling for the Panthers. So it was a huge loss for this Oklahoma State offense. Now, against Baylor, that they really turned it around. Over 200 yards rushing. Jalen Warren has really started to click for this offense, and he's kind of emerged as their top option after some of these injuries. 512 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns for Warren, and Richardson's more of a rotational running back. You're going to have to watch him. He has 61 yards rushing this year, but Warren is going to be the guy moving forward for the Cowboys. And so he's someone that has to have a big weekend. He's going to try to have to replicate, we saw what Kennedy Brooks did. Warren's might not be on the level of Brooks, but he has that ability to be a game changer. And if he can put up 150, 200 yards, that's going to go a long way in determining if Oklahoma State can pull off the, spread upset, but continue their undefeated season. Now, the rushing attack really opens up opportunities for Spencer moving forward. And especially to make plays down the field for this Cowboys offense. It one gives him a cleaner pocket, and two, it gives those wide receivers on the outside some very nice one-on-one opportunities to go make plays in open space. Now, the number one thing though is to keep Sanders clean. The clean pocket, when having a clean pocket, Sanders has completed almost 71% of his passes for over 600 yards, 3 touchdowns, and has a 93 passing grade according to Pro Football Focus. But when he's under pressure, that completion percentage drops to 32%. He's only throwing about 5 yards down the field, has two touchdowns, 2 picks, and his PFF passing grade drops to a 44.2. The key for Oklahoma State's offense is to run the ball, and therefore Sanders has a cleaner pocket and more time to throw the ball, because if you become one dimensional and the defense can get after Sanders, that's when this offense stalls and sputters in recent history. So they have to keep him clean. And on the flip side, Texas has to get to Sanders and get him uncomfortable in the pocket and get him, making some mistakes and forces turnovers. Now, Sanders on the other side has to continue his domination over the middle with his intermediate passing attack. He's got to put pressure on this Texas defense to make a stop here. He's completed over 66% of his passes for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, and has an 89.9 passing grade on passes 10 to 19 yards down the field. The number one thing for Sanders is get comfortable. You don't have to do anything spectacular. Play within your comfort zone. Avoid turnovers. And that's the big thing for me. Avoid turnovers. You saw what happened when Oklahoma turned the ball over last week against Texas. Texas was able to make them pay and really separated themselves in the first half. But once you started taking care of the ball, you saw you could make some plays against this Texas defense. So play in your comfort zone. Don't force anything, and make sure you protect the ball, because that's the recipe to beating this Texas team, is just to play smart football and play within your offense. Let Warren do it on the ground, and for Sanders, you just have to protect the ball and make the throws when they're there. Now, I know that on other Texas previews, I always said the key is going to be Bijan Robinson at running back. He's great, but when you look at the matchup, this Oklahoma State defense is only giving up about 90 yards on the ground this year, and less than 3 yards per carry. So this weekend, really for me, the key is going to be Casey Thompson being a distributor, not turning the ball over, and letting his playmakers outside make plays in open space against this Cowboys secondary. Now, Hudson Card was the initial starting quarterback for the Longhorns. But since Thompson has taken over this QB1 role, the Longhorns have been a different team, averaging over 7 yards per play, 480 yards per game. And he's put up ridiculous stats, man. Over almost 1,100 yards passing, 11.3, average attempt, 14 passing touchdowns, 3 picks, and 3 rushing touchdowns. He's made a living on those short to intermediate passes this season, and that's going to be key, is hitting his wide receivers, not turning the ball over, making smart and accurate throws while letting his wide receivers and running backs make plays in open space. He's completed almost 73% of his passes for over 500 yards, 8 touchdowns, no turnovers in that short to intermediate range. The one thing I'm worried about is, can he push the ball down the field? Because that's where all his turnovers have come, when he tries to attempt passes over 20 yards down the field. The thing that he has to do is not only avoid turnovers, but he has to create some explosive plays against a defense that has not allowed many. But the reason you want to have explosive plays is this offense is only putting up about 25 points per game. You want to put pressure on Sanders and this offense to have to put up points this weekend on the road, get them out of their comfort zone, and make them play your type of game. The team who establishes their will and the pace of the game into their favor is going to win this game. Texas has to make this a high-scoring game, because that's where they're going to thrive. If this gets into an ugly, beat down, drag out, smash mouth type game, Oklahoma State definitely is going to have the advantage there because of the makeup of their team. Now, the wide receiving core has been electric after the over the past few weeks. They've really defied expectations for me coming into the season. And this weekend, they're going to be some X factors. Xavier Worthy is by far the number one option. 25 catches for over 530 yards. He's averaging 21 yards per catch and 6 touchdowns. Joshua Moore's going to have to step up 14, 146, and 2 touchdowns. Losing Jordy Whittington last week was a huge loss. He's potentially out for the season, possibly has to get surgery. He had all over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But I want y'all to look out for Marcus Washington and Cavante Dixon to step up in replacing him this weekend. They're going to be guys that you're going to have to know their name after this weekend if the Longhorns want to win this game. And of course, you can never forget about Bijan Robinson, 789 yards rushing, over 6 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns, 169 receiving yards for a 15-yard per catch average, and 2 receiving touchdowns. He's going to be a factor regardless if you're passing or rushing. He's going to have to make plays against a very good front seven of Oklahoma State. So look out for Bijan Robinson and whether he can make a statement this weekend against a very, very talented defense. Now, the matchup to watch for me, it has to be this Oklahoma State offensive line against this Texas defensive line because it's not only going to be important to the rushing attack for the Cowboys, you have to limit the pressure on Sanders. And that's going to be the utmost important thing this weekend for this Cowboys offense. And you want to give credit where credit's due. The Cowboys O-line has done a solid job in protecting Sanders, paving the way for a rushing attack that's been getting better each and every week. They've only allowed 5 sacks, 22 pressures, and 13 hits on Sanders this weekend, which is not a bad mark at all, especially that sack number is very, very good. But Josh Sills and Hunter Woodward have been the cornerstones of this offensive line. Both are the highest graded O linemen on this team. Only allowed 1 sack and 9 pressures combined, which is an elite mark. The one place I'm worried about is Jake Springfield on this offensive line. He's got to play better this weekend. He's been the weak spot, a 59.9 blocking grade for the season. He's allowed 3 sacks, 12 total pressures. He's going to have to hold up against a fairly talented Texas defensive line. Now, the D line for the Longhorns has been solid this season, 15 sacks, 52 pressures over their first 6 games. But losing edge defender Jacoby Jones last weekend is a huge loss for them. But I'm looking for Alfred Collins to make his impact now that a spot's opened up. And already in his limited, rotational action, Collins is tied for the team lead in sacks with 2 this season. So what can we see from a bigger role in Collins? Can he explode onto the scene? You also look at, I really like Byron Murphy, the second on this defensive front. And then Ovi Agahafu. I'm sure I butchered that, but try my best there. But yeah, Ovi and Byron are going to be 2 guys to look for on this defensive front that's going to be tasked with not only stopping this run game, but generating a solid pass rush all weekend long. And I'm not putting a lot of stock into, all the craziness last week for this Texas defense because I don't think people understand how hard it is to defend a backup quarterback you didn't prepare for, especially one as talented as Caleb Williams was. So this week, I expect to see a much better performance down the stretch from this Texas front seven and this Texas defense overall. You look at Overshone in that second level. He's a legit future NFL star. I think Collins and him are going to be 2 guys to really watch out for in this front seven, generating pass rush and stopping this rushing attack. Now for predictions, man. This game was so hard, man. I've been going back and forth, and even right before I recorded, I wasn't sure where I was going to go. But for me, I just think the offensive inconsistency in terms of scoring is going to catch up with Oklahoma State. In the second half, Baylor really played much better and kind of exposed some weaknesses on that OSU offense and defense. I think Texas's offense is just too good. They're going to turn this game into a higher scoring game. And like I said, a higher scoring game will favor the Longhorns, while a very, very low scoring physical game is going to benefit Oklahoma State. I have Texas in a very, very close one, probably a walk-off field goal type situation. I have the Longhorns 37, Oklahoma State 34, a 3-point win for the Longhorns. So they do not cover that 5.5-point spread. But I think this game could go either way. I still think both of these teams are going to be in a very, very tight race for that other spot in Dallas. You look at Oklahoma State, still gets a shot at Oklahoma. Texas still has some very tough games moving forward. And on top of that, Oklahoma's got some very tough tests moving forward. So who knows what they're going to be like. This is going to be a huge matchup to determine the future of the Big 12 and who gets to go to Dallas with the chance to win the championship. Right now, though, if this game was in Stillwater, it might have been flipped the other way, but I got the Longhorns in Austin 37-34 over the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Guys, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Go ahead and like the video and comment your score predictions below. Let me know your takeaways of the game and all your thoughts on this huge Big 12 matchup down in Austin, Texas this weekend. Huge top 25 matchup. Make sure to tune in at 11 a.m. Central Time on Fox, 12 p.m. Eastern Time if you're in that time zone. But guys, appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with more Week 7 previews. But for right now, man, the Blue Bloods are out.